The story begins with Qianluo, who possesses the unique void ability. Qianluo uses this power to stockpile and preserve large quantities of food in preparation for an impending apocalypse. He knew that in 27 days, an apocalypse crisis would occur, resulting in 80% of the human population turning into zombies. Among the remaining survivors, at least 90% will perish at the hands of zombies, while a few will evolve and develop various abilities, including physical and elemental aspects. Qianluo's rare void ability, known as the Void Supreme King, allows him to survive in this post-apocalyptic world without any worries. However, despite his survival, he becomes increasingly isolated as all other survivors eventually die, and the world's monsters grow stronger. Over time, the profound loneliness leads him to lose the will to live. Qianluo experiences a surprising twist when he gets reborn into the past, precisely 27 days before the impending apocalypse. Although some of his abilities are lost, he retains his invaluable void ability. Recognizing the importance of food and resources for survival in the post-apocalyptic world, he uses his void space ability to preserve food, ensuring it remains fresh and available. This second chance at life presents him with a unique opportunity to prepare for the upcoming crisis and secure the necessities needed to survive. Qianluo, after storing the food, received a call from his uncle, who demanded to see him. Determined not to repeat his past mistakes, Qin went to the Qinshur organization building where he was immediately questioned by his uncle. His uncle expressed concern over Qin's decision to sell shares worth over 3 billion for only 1 billion and wondered why Qin hadn't confided in him. He offered his support, encouraging Qin to reach out if he ever felt threatened or encountered difficulties. However, Qianluo couldn't help but see through his uncle's act. He knew the truth because he had heard from his son, Qin Fei, during the apocalypse. Qin Fei revealed that his uncle had orchestrated the death of Qianluo's parents through a car accident, and had also embezzled the organization's shares originally intended for Qin. Qin realized that he had nearly been deceived by his uncle's facade and would have continued to believe he was a good person if not for Qin Fei's disclosure. Qianluo stated that he had a hunch that pork prices would soar, potentially reaching 50 per caddy or even 100 per caddy. He believed that the 1 billion worth of pork he had purchased would significantly increase in value. However, when his uncle proposed buying the shares for 1.5 billion, Qin informed him that he had already sold them, and the contract was finalized with the young master, making it impossible to buy them back. While Qin was on a phone call, his uncle, frustrated by the situation, decided to teach him a lesson for causing trouble. The caller informed Luo that they had found the dog, which he tasked them to find, confirming by sending a picture. Qianluo recalled the post-apocalyptic world where some individuals had taken it upon themselves to rank super ability users. As the possessor of the void ability, he naturally held the top spot. Fire first belonged to someone with the title of Scarlet Rose, while lightning first surprisingly went to a dog named Lightning King. Any creature that hadn't turned into a zombie had the potential to develop an ability. Qianluo remembered the high demand for Lightning King, the dog, during the early days of the apocalypse when food was scarce. Many people coveted the dog, but all attempts to obtain it failed, except for Qianluo. He vividly recalled the taste of the dog when he was starving and managed to eat it. With his newfound abundance of food and resources, Qin decided to befriend Lightning King. Provide the dog with excellent care, and enjoy good food. Qianluo received the address where Lightning King could be found and hoped that the dog would accept him as its new owner. Before parting ways with his uncle, he recalled that they wouldn't have the chance to meet again because they would both perish on the day of the apocalypse, along with his son. Upon arriving at the market and seeing Lightning King's pitiful condition, Qianluo called out to the store owner. He accused the owner of stealing his dog and expressed his relief that he had discovered it in time, preventing his beloved pet from becoming food. The store owner tried to play it off. Qin threatened to involve the police in an investigation. When the owner attempted to stop him, Qin restrained him. The owner apologized and released Lightning King, giving the dog to Luo for free. He called the dog and invited it to come home with him. Luo couldn't help but notice that the dog seemed to have a spiritual quality, and could potentially understand human language. He named the dog Dharma King and was excited about the prospect of their growing bond. While out with Dharma King, Chen encountered someone he knew, Su Daju. Chen remembered how, in his previous life, Su Daju had selflessly protected him from mutants, even sacrificing his own life. Chen was determined to ensure that Daju had a good life in this new life. Chen Luo invited Daju to go out and have some fun after his night shift, but Daju declined, explaining that his mother had warned him against getting involved in anything that could lead to trouble or bad behavior, such as robbery. Chen Luo understood Daju's perspective and reflected on their relationship. He knew that in the future, during the apocalypse, they would become close friends. After returning home and giving Dharma King a bath, Chen made a conscious decision not to live the same way he had in his previous life, where he had been the sole survivor. Chen Luo decided to create a gathering place for individuals with supernatural abilities. He envisioned recruiting others like Dharma King and providing them with a safe haven to harness their talents. Chen Luo realized he needed various resources, including food, clean water, generators, medicines, utensils, and electric batons to build his safe haven for supernatural abilities. He understood the importance of securing clean water sources, especially since post-apocalyptic water was polluted and couldn't be purified. Chen also planned to acquire alloy armor for protection against zombies during the early stages of the apocalypse. As they were having a meal, a woman named Ma Yu, the cooking teacher hired by Chen Luo, arrived. She couldn't help but wonder why she was being paid a monthly salary of 50,000 yuan for teaching cooking. Ma Yu assumed that Chen must be wealthy based on his generous compensation and speculated about his potential romantic interests, given his favorable conditions. She pondered whether he might have any intentions towards her. Chen Luo, in order to prevent all kinds of uncertainties in the apocalypse, I can't just have supplies but also cooking skills. The lesson began, but the outcome of Luo's cooking was horrible. Ma Yu comforted him, stating he had made improvements, while Chen Luo realized that he couldn't cook and might need to hire a chef. Chen Luo spotted two individuals he recognized: the sisters, Mi Ling and Mi Li. Mi Ling was the first person to awaken a fire ability, and was known as the Scarlet Rose Spirit Flame Princess. Her younger sister, Mi Li, possessed a light element ability and excelled as a support healer, even rumored to have the revive technique in later stages. Chen Luo was determined to recruit these two talented sisters. To learn more about them, he contacted someone to gather information, particularly their food preferences. He believed in the saying that the way to a person's heart is through their stomach, and intended to stock up on their favorite foods. With this strategy, he hoped to gain their loyalty, especially in times of food scarcity. With just one day left before the impending apocalypse, Chen Luo began preparing his equipment and sent some of them to Daju. However, as the day approached, he couldn't help but feel restless. He questioned whether the apocalypse would truly happen this time or if it would be averted. Part of him wished for the latter, as the stocked resources would result in a significant loss. Even though he was still wealthy and could enjoy a peaceful life in a world without the impending dangers and inhumanities of the apocalypse. Hours before the apocalypse was set to occur, Chen Luo called his uncle, explaining his belief that virtual currency would surge, potentially increasing by 8 to 10 times. However, he confessed that he had used his money to buy pork meat. Chen proposed mortgaging his hoard, worth 1 billion, to his uncle and borrowing 500 million from him. He promised to pay back the loan with interest once his 500 million turned into 5 billion. He suggested discussing this in person at his uncle's home. Chen Luo stopped to warn Daju about a potential upcoming event before heading to his uncle's house. At the uncle's house, Jianan expressed skepticism about Chen Luo's virtual currency investment, suspecting it might be a scam. Fei argued that it was a lucrative opportunity, and that Chen Luo sought their help due to the urgency of acquiring a large sum of money. Despite Fei's enthusiasm, Jianan remained cautious and advised careful consideration. As Chen Luo arrived at his uncle's house, Fei welcomed him. As the minutes ticked down to the impending apocalypse, Chen Luo indulged in a meal. Suddenly, they heard a commotion coming from the kitchen. Chen Luo sensed that the chaos had begun and rushed to investigate. In the kitchen, Fei was confronted by someone who had already mutated into a zombie. The creature charged at him, but Fei managed to shut the door in time. Chen Luo arrived and knocked out Fei, intending to make him suffer. Qin Jianan also entered the scene and attempted to attack, only to be knocked out by Chen Luo as well. Fei was attacked by a zombie. Qin Jianan, realizing the dire situation, pleaded with Chen Luo to save his cousin and admitted to cheating him with his shares. Chen Luo suggested that he should apologize more. He warned Jianan about the dire circumstances his son was facing, urging him to make a decision. When Jianan threatened to call the police, Chen Luo expressed his disappointment in his uncle's behavior and called him ungrateful for plotting against his own family. Jianan defended himself, claiming that he had contributed to the company and deserved more than the 10% share he had received. He even went so far as to say that Chen's father deserved to die. Chen Luo reminded Jianan that during that time, a 10% share was still worth 1.5 billion yuan, emphasizing that it was a significant amount. He then threw Jianan to the zombies, as punishment for his betrayal and threats against his family. As Chen Luo faced the attacking zombie, he knew that once someone became a zombie, they were driven solely by the instinct to feed on humans, devoid of any other emotions. While zombies were immune to fear, they could still experience pain and be affected by paralysis and stunning. He knew that killing them was relatively straightforward. A well-aimed strike between the eyebrows was effective but unpleasant. After dispatching the zombie, Chen Luo extracted a core crystal from its body. He found that it was a low-rank crystal, typical of the early stages of the apocalypse. Chen Luo understood that when the zombie outbreak began, both ability users and zombies would possess these crystals between their eyebrows. These core crystals contained energy that could expedite an awakener's recovery and contribute to their overall strength. Chen Luo saw these crystals as valuable treasures and was determined to collect as many as possible. Chen Luo found that the size and color of the core crystals depended on the target's ability and compatibility. For instance, fire-type ability users or zombies had red crystals, wind-type had green, and space-type had transparent crystals. He remembered the dark purple egg-sized core crystal he obtained from Lightning King's head. Outside, Chen Luo continued killing zombies and collecting the core crystals. He then approached Lightning King, who was growing increasingly anxious. Chen sensed that they were both on the brink of awakening and decided it was unsafe to stay outside. He invited Lightning King to come inside the house and wait for their awakening, planning for him to leave afterward. Chen Luo noticed that Lightning King began to glow, signaling the start of his awakening. He contemplated the factors that determined the strength of an ability. Chen Luo understood that early awakening and rapid ability growth were key indicators of talent. Lightning King's lightning talent, in particular, appeared to be among the most exceptional in terms of lightning abilities. As he also began his awakening process, Chen felt the power of his own emerging abilities. After awakening, Chen Luo immediately tested his ability but was disappointed with the results. His Void Ball attack required 25% of his ability power, and couldn't even instantly kill the weakest zombies. He recognized the need to absorb core crystals to level up quickly. In the apocalypse, abilities were ranked from 1 to 10, with those above rank 10 being considered king rank. Chen Luo remembered that Lightning King and Ling Yanji had both been king rank in his previous life. He also recalled that his own body had reached king rank after absorbing Lightning King's core crystal. However, he had been unsure of the benefits at the time, as the desolation of the world had left him feeling that life was meaningless without food, companionship, or purpose. Chen Luo calculated that by absorbing around 20 core crystals, he would be able to advance to a rank 2 ability user. He then proceeded to instruct Lightning King on how to use his newfound ability, which the dog successfully demonstrated. Their next mission led them to a nearby supermarket, where Chen Luo donned his equipment and cleared the area of zombies. Inside, he used his void ability to store various items, including food and resources, while also collecting core crystals from the defeated zombies. As they left the market, Chen Luo noticed that Lightning King was feeling down, unable to kill zombies as effortlessly as himself. Chen Luo comforted Lightning King, telling him not to be discouraged. He assured the dog that he was already doing exceptionally well and encouraged him to continue working hard, believing that with time, Lightning King would become the best and coolest companion. As Chen Luo headed towards the cold storage, a man stopped and asked what was happening since the police were not responding. Chen Luo informed him about the ongoing zombie outbreak. The man offered to team up, but Chenluo declined the offer and continued on his way. Chenluo considered his plan to recruit followers but only elite ones. He recognized the need for caution, even with abundant resources, as they were not unlimited. Upon reaching the road leading to the cold storage, he found it blocked by zombies. Realizing he had no other option, he prepared to eliminate the obstacle in his path. Chenluo launched his offensive against the zombie horde, efficiently dispatching multiple zombies. However, his electric baton suddenly lost power. He swiftly retrieved another baton and continued eliminating zombies, collecting their core crystals. Spotting a truck nearby, Chenluo decided to seize it. He used the vehicle to mow down the numerous zombies on his way to the cold storage. Unbeknownst to him, a group of survivors had been observing his actions, hoping that he would rescue them. However, one of the survivors voiced caution, suspecting that the driver might not have their best interests at heart. They believed that Chenluo was after the resources stored in the cold storage and would abandon them after obtaining what he wanted. The cautious man proposed the plan to take control of the truck themselves, considering it the safest option. The group reached an agreement and decided to seize the truck, believing it would offer them the best chance of survival. Luo Chen collects a crystal core and is approached by a girl who thanks him for killing zombies. Two men warn him not to resist. Luo reflects on the harsh environment of the apocalypse, considering kindness as harmful. LK arrives, distracting the group, and Luo defeats the two men with a baton. The girl tries to escape but is captured by LK, and Luo uses the baton on her. He then gathers food supplies and plans to head home, with intentions to loot a grain storage facility tomorrow. He thinks about Daju. On his way, a man armed with a weapon tries to stop Luo's truck. Luo notices the threat, stops, and orders LK to kill the man. LK uses his lightning power to knock out the armed man. Luo instructs LK to ensure the man's death, emphasizing the need for decisiveness in the apocalypse. LK delivers the killing blow as commanded. After parking the car, LK lures zombies away while Luo clears the remaining ones near the villa. Daju calls out to Luo, who is relieved to see him safe but surprised to find Jingchen with him. Luo recalls his past experiences with Jing and recognizes her as a scheming individual. He remembers her risky behavior in their previous life, including using Daju as an experiment due to concerns about water purity. He also reflects on her manipulative actions, such as hiding food portions and tricking Daju into giving her his share. Luo is determined not to let Jing manipulate them again and intends to use her to teach Daju a lesson about the sinister nature of people's hearts in this new life. Luo ignores Jing, who is introducing herself, which irritates her. Jing's thought process revolves around increasing her affection with Luo, believing that with the protection of these two men, she can stay safe and eventually be rescued by the country. Luo brings Daju and Jing to his villa but is reluctant to give any food to Jing, only offering her a few slices of bread. Meanwhile, Luo plans to expose Jing's true nature. Luo suggests going to the supermarket to gather resources due to the shortage of food and the presence of zombies everywhere. Daju volunteers to go with him, promising to protect him and points out the baton's limitations. Luo devises a plan. He asks Jing to use her speed to lure zombies away from them while he and Daju gather resources from the supermarket and arrange to meet back at the villa. Jing feigns weakness when Luo suggests she lure zombies away. She tries to avoid participating, citing her lack of energy due to having eaten only a slice of bread that morning. Luo is frustrated with Jing's behavior. He and Daju will lure the zombies away, but Jing will still benefit from the resources they gather. Jing, surprised by Luo's rudeness, attempts to plead with Daju for support. Luo expresses concern about the purity of tap water. He suggests that she could test the water, stating that this task will exempt her from joining them in their risky trip. Jing pleads for mercy, offering to help with chores and take care of Luo and Daju. She tries to avoid going with them on their mission. Jing suggests testing the water on LK to check for pollution. This offends LK, leading him to attack Jing. Her bag spills, revealing she had been hiding food for herself. Luo takes some of the food and shares it with Daju, who now sees Jing's true nature and decides to distance himself from her. Jing protests their actions, accusing them of bullying her as a poor girl. Luo realizes that merely exposing this part of Jing's nature isn't enough to make Daju understand the darker side of human nature. He plans to push Jing further to reveal more about herself. Luo assures her that they need to eat to have energy for their food-finding mission. He decides that Jing doesn't have to accompany them this time since they've already eaten her food. He promises to return with double the amount of food for her. Jing, realizing she can't make them her enemies just yet, apologizes and explains her instinctive reaction, mentioning her past experiences with hunger. Luo privately admires Jing's act and tells Daju they should head to the supermarket. He then discreetly instructs LK to lure some zombies, surprising LK with the idea. LK is confused about luring zombies into their house but follows Luo's orders, not fully understanding the plan. Luo returns to the group with garlic juice, leaving them puzzled. He tells them about seeing someone outside who hung garlic on their body, claiming that it scared the zombies away. However, he knew that in reality, garlic's smell would actually attract zombies rather than repel them. As they hear more zombies approaching, Jing becomes terrified. Luo contemplates whether Jing will choose to fight with them or snatch the life-saving garlic juice. Luo suggests to Daju that he use the garlic juice, but Daju is reluctant. Despite his dislike for Jing, she hasn't committed a grave enough offense to deserve death. He worries that using the garlic juice to save himself and Luo might lead to Jing's demise. However, Jing immediately grabs the garlic juice for herself, leaving Daju surprised. Luo points out this act to Daju, emphasizing the harsh reality of the apocalypse and cautioning against being too kind to people who may not deserve it. Jing accuses Luo of setting her up, but he counters that she made her own choice. He revealed to her that zombies are sensitive to garlic smell, making her survival unlikely. Jing protests, claiming she just wants to live. Luo condemns her for exploiting kindness, especially Daju's, and questions if it's wrong to sacrifice her for their survival. Luo plans to disclose his power to Daju later and expects Jing to die soon, preventing her from revealing secrets. Jing notices Luo's armor and realizes he had planned ahead. She pleads with him to spare her, offering to let him do anything to her in the future. Luo rejects her plea and tells Daju to hide. As Jing curses Luo, zombies approach and swarm her. After disposing of the zombies, Luo urges Daju to help him move the corpses out of the house. After moving the corpses, Luo wished that he had a maid to help him clean and thought about Ma Yu, wondering if she was still alive. Luo decides that letting Ma Yu suffer a bit will be beneficial and make recruitment easier. He doesn't want to clean the stains himself and doesn't want to burden Daju either. Instead, he calls LK over and teaches him how to clean up the mess. Before going to the supermarket, Luo prepares a feast. He asks Daju if he's noticed any changes in his body, and Daju mentions feeling stronger. Luo shares that he also experienced changes before the apocalypse, gaining void-type powers. He suggests they will become like brothers and encourages Daju to enjoy the meal. Daju worries about the excess food, but Luo insists they eat it all, considering LK's hunger. LK, grateful for the food, questions why he is wiping the floor. After their meal, Luo gives Daju crystal cores to absorb, and they both head to their rooms for the absorption process. While absorbing crystals, Luo notices something unusual. He recalls that in his past life, absorbing 8 crystals was enough for a level up, but this time, he needed to absorb 20 crystals before reaching rank 2. He wonders what his limit will be in this new life. Luo reflects on his progress, having absorbed 42 core crystals and even forming a void sword, albeit briefly. He compares his current abilities to his past life, realizing that he's advancing much faster this time around. He anticipates mastering skills like Void Passage and the Element Blade earlier than he did before. The next day, Daju informs Luo that he absorbed 7 core crystals and feels stronger, while LK consumed 9. Luo decides it's time to head to the grain storage. Outside, their trucks are surrounded by zombies, but LK distracts them, allowing Daju and Luo to get into the trucks safely. Upon arriving at the grain storage, Luo notices an eerie silence despite the loud noises outside. Luo suspects there might be an underground basement where people are hiding. After discovering a passage leading to the basement, they find skeletons inside. These skeletons are strangely intact, not fully consumed like normal zombie victims. Luo wonders if some mutated creatures, possibly ants or rats, are responsible. Suddenly, Luo hears something and realizes it's a group of rats. He urgently tells the others to run, and countless rats emerge, chasing after them. As LK lured some rats away, the Rat King targeted Luo and Daju. They struggled to defend themselves against the swarm of rats, but Luo was more concerned about the Rat King, a mutant creature. Luo knew how survivors, zombies, and creatures all gradually improve their combat abilities, but some mutants can drastically increase their strength at the cost of longevity. He realizes that he has encountered such a mutant, which frustrates him. The Rat King takes down Daju, biting him, but Daju's armor saves him. To distract the other rats, Luo takes out meat. He realizes that his only hope is to use the Void Sword to kill the Rat King. The monster tries to flee but is ultimately killed by Luo, who takes its core crystal. After defeating the Rat King, Luo considers the Rat King's front fangs as potential weapons for the future. They proceed to the basement where Luo begins to store various supplies. Luo emphasizes the need for secrecy regarding their stocked resources to Daju. He instructs Daju not to reveal this information to anyone, no matter who it is. Daju assures Luo that he understands and promises to keep their secret, even under pressure. After obtaining the necessary supplies, they return home. Luo suggests to Daju that they should stay at home to become stronger first, given the danger they faced against the Rat King. He estimates it will take him 2 to 3 days to reach rank 3 through crystal absorption, and Daju agrees with the plan. 3 days later, Luo notices that LK has reached rank 2 and instructs him to train his new lightning skill by hunting zombies. LK, initially thinking Luo is concerned for his safety, is surprised when Luo hands him garbage to take out. Frustrated, LK accuses Luo of not treating him like a dog, to which Luo responds that he should mature by taking on responsibilities and handling chores without needing to be ordered. Luo ponders the need for Mayu to help with their daily life and remembers that she lives in a nearby 5-star hotel staff dormitory. He decides that when he becomes a rank 3 ability user, he will go find her. Later that night, Luo marvels at his rapid progress, taking only 3 days to reach rank 3 compared to half a month in his past life. His Void Sword's duration has also increased from 5 seconds to 20 seconds. He's excited that they can finally venture outside and plans to leave in the morning to find Mayu and bring back core crystals. The next day, they arrive at the dormitory and clear the area of zombies. They meet a survivor named Wenbo and ask if he knows Mayu. Wenbo reveals that Mayu lives in one of the rooms but isn't there at the moment. He explains that she was called in to prepare food for a business meeting on the morning of the disaster. Luo asks Wenbo to lead the way to Mayu's location. Meanwhile, Mayu and a group of people are hiding in a cold storage room. She's being bullied by a popular star, Lin, and the manager. Linley suggests that they might not have enough vegetables to survive and proposes throwing Mayu out if she doesn't comply. This surprises Mayu, but the manager insists it's for the sake of everyone. The group kicked Mayu out of the room. Despite her anger and frustration, Mayu tries to hold back her tears, refusing to give her tormentors the satisfaction of seeing her cry. She wishes for someone to help her get rid of the group, even if it means paying any price. As zombies close in on Mayu, she resigns herself to her fate, thinking she won't have the chance to seek revenge. However, Luo arrives in time to save her, and she's grateful but silenced by him. Luo instructs Mayu to wait until they've cleaned up the area before having a conversation. He and Daju proceed to eliminate the remaining zombies. After witnessing their actions, Lin and her group came out, thanked them, and introduced themselves. Mayu then informs Luo of what happened earlier, and Lin offers money to Luo in exchange for escorting them to his home. However, Daju intervenes by slapping Lin for betraying Mayu. Luo decides not to kill Lin and her group but instead chooses to tie them up. He tells them that their survival will depend on fate. Lin protests, claiming that this is no different from killing them, but Daju points out that when they abandoned Mayu to the zombies, they didn't consider the consequences. Begs Luo and offers to do anything, but he firmly rejects her request. After tying them up, Luo's group leaves them behind. Wenbo catches up to them and expresses his willingness to follow Luo. Luo questions Wenba's worthiness to join them and hands him a weapon, instructing him to kill 10 zombies. If he succeeds, he will be allowed to follow them. However, Wenba is terrified and declines the challenge. Luo decides not to let Wenba join their team, but he grants Wenba 3 minutes to shop freely, and then promises to escort him back to the dormitory as thanks. Luo explains to Mayu that they lack logistics and someone to cook, and he'd rather kill zombies than wash dishes. He guarantees her personal safety and assures her that she won't be mistreated. She immediately agrees. Luo welcomes Mayu to the team and mentions that after escorting Wenba home, they'll return to celebrate together. Later that day, Luo asks Mayu if she's experienced any changes or awakened an ability in the past few days. Mayu recalls having a headache on the 3rd day but didn't pay much attention to it due to her hunger. Luo reassures her that abilities awakened on the 3rd day are neither good nor bad, just average. He encourages Mayu to try to feel the power within her body and begin exploring her newfound abilities. Luo and Mayu are surprised to discover that her awakened ability is fire manipulation. Luo realizes that having a fire ability user like Mayu can make their cooked food even more delicious, effectively turning her into a super chef. They enjoy a delicious meal prepared by Mayu, confirming that recruiting her was a wise decision. After eating, Luo shows Mayu her room and gives her a new phone with movies to keep her entertained. Luo informs Mayu that they will stay inside for the next few days to upgrade their abilities. He hints that he'll explain the specific method later. A few days later, Luo notices an improvement in his power. He calculates that at this rate, reaching rank 4 will take a few more days. He decides that it's time to go out and gather more core crystals and search for the sisters, Lingmi and Limi, whom he hasn't seen for 10 days, wondering how they've fared in the apocalypse. Luo decides that it's not the right time to help Lingmi and Limi but intends to check on them and prevent others from obtaining their revived spell abilities. He believes that people with such abilities should belong to him to avoid potential problems. Luo and Daoju prepare to leave to collect crystal cores, and he instructs Mayu not to open the door for anyone, even if they're about to die in front of her. After killing zombies and collecting a significant number of crystal cores, Luo decides they have enough. He remembers that the sisters live in the area ahead and plans to check on them. He tells Daoju to return to the truck while he takes LK for a walk to finish off the remaining zombies. Upon arriving at the location, Luo orders LK to investigate apartment 201 to see if anyone is home. Suddenly, LK senses something and grabs a cat hiding in the bushes. Luo intervenes to stop LK from attacking, and the cat surprisingly pleads with him through telepathy, leaving Luo surprised by its abilities. Luo decides to keep the telepathic cat as his pet but is surprised when Limi calls out to retrieve her pet, Rice. Luo wondered why he never encountered it in his past life or heard the sisters mention it. He realizes that the sisters, Lingmi and Limi, didn't stay together, as Lingmi would never have let her younger sister come out alone. As Limi turns to leave with Rice, the cat returns to Luo, asking for food. Luo contemplates whether he should use this opportunity to try and convince the younger sister to join him. Luo proposes that they go to the supermarket together to search for dried fish and suggests cooperation in resource gathering. Limi is initially hesitant, but Rice urges her to agree, believing that Luo has no evil intentions and can be trusted. Limi eventually agrees to join them and arms herself before returning. Luo introduces Daoju and LK to her. Limi is surprised to find out that not only Rice but also LK possesses abilities, with LK being able to use lightning. Luo introduces himself, and reveals his Void Magician ability. He inquires about Limi's ability. Limi explains that Rice has the ability to communicate with people, and her own ability is equivalent to that of a priest. As zombies approach, Limi uses her priest-like ability to buff Luo and Daoju, significantly increasing their strength. They begin fighting off the zombies, and even though one gets close to Limi, she insists on handling it herself, viewing it as an opportunity to train in combat since she hasn't faced zombies before. Limi successfully defeats the zombie but feels uneasy afterward. They arrive at the mall and begin collecting the items they need. Rice approaches Luo and requests his assistance in obtaining some food. Luo is curious about Rice's abilities and speculates that telepathy is just the tip of the iceberg. He believes that such a unique ability couldn't have been mastered early in the apocalypse, and is determined to convince the rare cat to join him. Luo makes an offer to Rice, promising her braised fish if she agrees to follow him. Rice quickly agrees to the deal. Meanwhile, as Li Mi is collecting items in the mall, a giant zombie sneaks up behind her. In her panic, she accidentally runs into Luo. Luo recognized this mutant zombie as he had difficulty in fighting it in the past, because of its strong defense and self-destruct ability. Who swiftly draws his void sword and effortlessly defeats the zombie. This heroic action earns Li Mi's trust. Observing Li Mi's blush and shyness after he saved her, Luo takes the opportunity to recruit her into his group and invites her to return with them. However, Li Mi declined the offer. Li Mi explains that she needs to stay home and wait for her elder sister, Ling Mi. She worries that if her sister returns and finds her missing, she'll be anxious and concerned. Li Mi suggests that Luo and the others go back first, and she'll wait for her sister before joining them later. Rice becomes upset at Li Mi's decision and proposes to leave a note for Ling Mi eventually. Li Mi agrees to the idea and decides to go with Luo. Like and subscribe if you want me to continue the next chapters, and thank you for watching.